live in the dungeon. This is the Dream Warrior Review. I'm Kurt Thomas.
I'm Mick Strawn.
And this is episode 46.
The film's name is Unsane.
Yes, Unsane in the Membrane.
Yep. And,
sorry, that was a weird reference, but...
yeah, that was. What the hell are you talking
Unsane
about?
in the Brain! A young woman is involuntarily committed to a mental institution where she is confronted by her greatest fear. But is it real, or is it a product of her delusion? Unsane.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And we know a couple of things about this. We know that this was filmed with an iPhone.
Yes,
right?
and this is Steven Soderbergh's student production. His student film. I hope he got a good grade on this one.
Yeah.
No, I was looking back through his resume, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he has all these great movies. Right. And then this one felt like a student film, like he had just started learning how to make movies.
You know what? It might have looked like that, but I'll tell you something. It wasn't a student film, and it was taut all the way along.
Yeah, it was.
It was very taut, and there wasn't an ounce of fat on that sucker. Yeah,
actually, I noticed that there wasn't much going on that needed to be cut out.
Right? No, it was.
The only thing that annoyed me was that how many freaking camera shots can you go? I mean, let's just be too creative in some scenes. I thought they were way too creative. Like when she was in the bathroom, up, above her, below her, sideways.
Well, yeah, but you know what that has to do with, and if you didn't notice this, I certainly did. There was a sameness to every shot.
Yeah.
And that sameness...
It was a tripod that was holding the iPhone. Had to be.
Well, it had to be. And the thing is to a certain extent, you get tired of that.
Yeah.
I mean, there were no epic dolly shots.
No.
There were, you know.
No, everything was either tacked. It was either on a tripod or it was tacked to a wall or something.
There was no zoom pan messing with perspective or anything like that. It was just bare to the bones.
Yeah.
And it got to the point. And the thing is this you're standing. You know what it is? It's a rock band out there with their acoustic guitars.
Yes.
Yeah, it's, what did MTV call it? You know, MTV
Unplugged.
That's exactly what it was. It was unplugged.
And actually, the guy that played the creepy guy was awesome, Joshua Leonard.
Yeah, I thought the cast in general did a really good job with it. And you know, the thing is I think that the fact that it didn't have it had no great crane shots. It had none of that stuff. It
didn't even have like a selfie shot, I don't think.
Right. Well, you know, the weird thing is I think that he was very careful to avoid that because, you know, he was careful not to get too much of the selfie angle. You notice how he was back a little bit on everything? Well,
my question is, did they use just one camera or did they use two? Because it looked like, the way they shot it looked like they just did, like when she was talking to somebody.
Right.
It was like she had to do all her lines, and then they turned it around, and they had to do all...
Well, yeah, but they always do it. I mean, that's...
I'm just saying, was it one phone? Because there was parts where they changed camera angles in the middle of a scene, like, multiple times. Did they had to...
Yeah, but they always...
Did they have to pause and then redo it, and pause and redo it? That's what I'm asking.
Well, yeah, single cameras...
So was it really single camera is my question.
No, it was single camera. That's what I'm saying. Here's the way that's done, is I sit here, and I get a certain particular lens... Or in this case, I get over here, and I get in, you know, and there wasn't a lot of this. I mean, there was, but I run the whole scene right here, and then I go over here, and I run the whole scene, and you cut back and forth inside of that. Right. I mean, obviously, that's the way that editing works. But no, it didn't feel like it wasn't multiple cameras.
So this must have taken longer to shoot than it would if you had more than one camera.
You never have more than one camera. If you have two cameras, it's second unit.
Right. Ah.
You never shoot two at the same time. Okay. If you have a second camera, it's second unit.
I guess I'm thinking more like this is like a smaller, like independent film.
No, what you're doing is you're actually confusing this style of filming for multiple camera TV filming.
Ah, okay.
That's
that's what I'm doing.
Well,
You're right. You're
multiple
right.
cameras like Roseanne.
Yeah.
Roseanne Barr's show, the Roseanne show. That's multiple camera. Where everything is shot at once, and they just play the whole thing out in front of you, right?
I guess I'm thinking of movies like that. What was that movie we saw with all the webcams?
Oh God, I don't know.
Because that was definitely a multiple camera shoot.
Yeah.
Keep watching.
Yeah, but you see, that was unusual. Normally, it's controlled, and the director himself is running one camera at a time all the time, right? So he shoots out a particular lens, and then switches to a second lens.
Or different
for
angle.
the same shot, or usually for a different angle, because you don't want to come.
Right.
I mean,
well, it's like you were talking about before, where you're shooting a scene like in a room, like for Nightmare on Elm Street, and you have to move the walls and you have to rotate.
Right, because you're doing your wide shot, and then you're coming in on your twos, and then you're coming in on your close-ups, and you're always moving in because you're trying to draw the interest in. And also, the fact that there was no multiple cameras on this also made you extremely aware of when you were cutting out of stuff. I mean, did you notice that we were like covering it by a day, and it was like this drawing and and we're getting closer, and we're getting closer, and we're getting and all of a sudden she's waking up and it's another day.
Yeah.
I mean that's how they decided to set it up. They're bringing us into the effect of the day. I mean, she's living day by day, and so that they're giving you that effect.
I think that's what made it feel longer to me. Like I was leaving there going, that felt like it was 3 hours, and it was only like an hour.
Well, yeah, but isn't that entirely what they were trying to do?
Yeah.
I mean, if you were in that situation, each minute would be like an hour.
Yeah, it'd be excruciating.
Yeah.
And Jay Farrow, I gotta give him applause for that.
Oh man, what a great performance. Yeah,
But the best performance was Ben Affleck. I mean, not Ben Affleck.
The best,
Not Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
The best performance was Matt Damon.
Well,
Let me rephrase that.
But this is how good he was. That was Ben Affleck. No. Affleck. Affleck.
That was Ben Affleck doing his impression of Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. That's how good he is. That's how good he is.
He had me fooled.
Yeah, he did.
So, I don't know. I thought it'd be really distracting at first. I knew it was going to be on an iPhone, and I thought it would be like, I guess I would think it would be bouncy, but thank God he used tripods and different ways of setting the camera steady.
I have said many times, and I think that this is true, is that people overuse their equipment, and I've pulled my camera out many times in front of people and said, look, this is, honest to God, all you need. If you're a good enough filmmaker, you could take this tool and you can make it happen.
Well, look at the one I made for RadCon.
I know, it was amazing.
And Matt Damon was in that one too.
Yeah, it was. Well, when he was playing a rock.
He was one of the puppets.
Oh, okay. That's right.
No, so I guess I like this one. The acting was a little weak in some spots, but I mean, you can't really ask for a lot with that cast, I guess, because there was a lot of. I don't think
it was all unknown.
Was the main actress no?
Right, no,
seemed like there were a lot of them were unknown. Is what I was. Yeah. So I mean, I liked the movie. I don't know.
I liked it a lot.
I wasn't overly excited about it.
I liked it a lot. I especially liked it from the point of view of I have known that you could do more with an iPhone than.
I think it's actually what I like about it has nothing to do with the movie, but the fact that a known director is doing something like this, and it's gonna hopefully will inspire more people to do it. And there'll be more low-budget things.
I'm going to start doing...
And we'll start seeing movies like this on Netflix.
I think that within the next couple of years, I'm going to start doing movies like...
there you go.
Like this, because the thing is...
Well, if you need a camera operator, iPhone operator...
You're going to be co-director, man. Don't kid yourself.
If you need an iPhone director, or what do you call it? Cinematographer?
Director of photography, all right?
Director of iPhoneography.
iPhography.
We should come up with our own
I find that
terminology.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you know, I've been the guy that has had to have all the equipment, you know, for special effects and you know, for the construction and putting sets together and stuff. And the thing is I've always believed deep down in my heart that, you know, we would get to a day where, you know, cameras would you just grab the camera and go do it. And we're at that point. And I think that this is the point where I jump in.
Well, it's like if,
but I got to get my book written first, so, you know.
Well, if you're cooking, like if you're cooking, for example, you don't necessarily have to have a sharp knife. You can make it work.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So it's like this.
No.
It's like you don't have to have the best equipment.
This is what I've always said about tools. Now, no, seriously, since I was a kid, I said, you know, here's the thing about tools is when you start out, you might as well use cheap tools because it just ain't going to make any difference.
Yep.
You and the tool are on a par, right?
Yep.
But when you get good and you get the journeyman thing down, you know, you're going to want the best of tools. But when you get to be the best at something, when you get, you know, up into the lofty heights of it, it doesn't matter anyway. It doesn't matter what you got in your hand. You can do professional work with it. I know that's the way that I've, you know, been with. I've made like that my bass guitar and just many things I've made. I've literally had one of my Mexican friends come up and say, you know, you built this amazing guitar or this amazing amplifier, and you have fewer tools in worse shape than a Mexican. And I know because I'm a Mexican.
Right. Yes.
I actually honestly
that explains
have
the
heard
last
that
name. Yeah.
Explains a lot, doesn't it? That explains a lot.
Yeah.
But I
want to know what sound they used. Like, I mean, they had to use a microphone. Like, I'm just because.
Oh, the sound was. Now you see. Now here's another thing that I always say is, boy, if you're gonna do a cheap film,
the sound better be good.
Sound better be good.
The sound was good on this.
It was great. You don't want to do cheap sound because you know what? A great film with bad sound is a bad film.
Which, by the way, credits were like what 30 seconds long.
Yeah,
that was awesome. Well, no, I mean that's
absolutely. There is no way that you could stand up and get out of the theater before the credits are done.
So that's another thing I liked. I mean, I guess I just liked that Steven Soderbergh decided to do this. I was kind of irritated at first, but I was like, okay. But it was just because I was seeing all these weird camera angles.
Yeah, and that he did a full form movie. You know, I mean,
yeah. I wasn't sure at first. The first 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, I don't know.
I loved it,
but I got into it.
I was there with it.
Yeah, I got into it.
Yeah,
I wasn't at 1st. So I don't know how many.
Jay Farrow, once again, I want to say that yes, Jay Farrow was awesome.
How many metal?
How many? How many shivs?
How many shivs would you give this one?
You know what? I'm definitely going to give this one 3.9 shivs.
I'd probably give it a 3.5, just because I thought there was some useless camera angles, but that's it. That's really the only thing.
Yeah,
I mean, I can overlook the acting wasn't strong in every scene, but there were a lot of actors that were probably fairly new.
You know, in all honesty, I think that, and this is going to sound really bad, I think that some of the post effects were a little bit too much. You know, like
the wobble one, where she was laying down.
They gave you such a wide variety in there. I mean,
well, that's just one first one I think of.
They gave you that one. They gave you the step print where they printed over the same sequence. Twice.
Yeah,
and the thing is, it was overdone, and after a while, it kind of got a little tedious.
It was a little drawn out.
Yeah, but what was I was going to say? There was a couple of sound things that were really quite interesting that I enjoyed. Can't remember what they were because I'm 60, but yeah. Yeah, no, I enjoyed the living hell out of it. I really did.
Well, that's good. Well, it looks like you're on your way to make a film yourself. You've been inspired by this.
Actually, I was. And the thing is you inspire me with things, and you know what? They get done.
Maybe Roach Bait's going to see the light of day.
I'm not a writer.
I'm going to get... Andy Wolf will be one of the cockroaches, and I definitely want to get...
We might as well use your story because I'm not a writer, and I've got a book coming out.
Maybe he can help me beef up the script. I'm going to reach out to him.
Oh, I can beef up the script.
Yeah.
No. I mean, if somebody else starts the writing, I can edit. Oh, ask my whole family. I edit stuff down. Oh, I'm vicious. I mean, I to the bone. I edit to the bone. Yeah.
You know, I'm still going to put Andy Wolf in the YouTube. What do you call them? The tags. I'm going to use them
credits.
In the tags on YouTube where you can type in like different subjects. So if people search up something, they'll find someone put him in there, and then he'll hear this and he'll be like, "Oh, I definitely want to work on that." And then he can be a producer, so he can just go find the money for me. See, I want to take the easy way.
You know what? That's the other reason that I want. In all honesty, that's the other reason that I want to do things just with my phone. is because you know what? Today, there is little money out there.
Well, can I say that Steven Soderbergh, his budget was probably a little higher than if I did something like this?
I would think so.
I'd probably spend $300 maybe, and that's probably be for food. That'd be for craft services.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Me too. Yeah. You know, I think that I think now the race is to be able to do these amazing things and.
I mean, I could do After Effects too. I mean, I could make things swabble and things. I just don't want to make that much effort on our podcast, but maybe I should do that.
So
I'm gonna have it. We're gonna start doing video, and I'm gonna do like multiple mix and.
You know what? I have someday we're going. You know, when your kids are a little bit older, we're gonna do this with cameras, and you're gonna just throw stuff in.
So like next year.
Yeah, like next year. Yeah. Next year. So
it's story time with Mick.
Wait. Did you hear that?
I think that was the music starting, but it was a false start though. Did you hear that? It started, but it stopped.
Okay.
Oh wait. Okay, I think I hear it again.
Story time. It's story time with Mick. 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 Story time with Mick.
Oh, there it was.
Hey, here we are. Nice. No, once again. Once again. So, what this reminded me of, and especially with the whole mental hospital aspect of it, when I was kind of a period where I had stopped working on, I'd stopped working on big projects, and then after a while I kind of like stopped working on little projects, and just kind of, I think I was running down. I was mentally challenged, and I was actually for a period just working on people's houses, and I would work on people's houses between film projects, because if you're doing a film project, you only work probably 6 months, out of the year, and the rest of the time so I always had something going. So there was a production designer friend of mine, and he and I got together and refurbished his house down in Venice, and we had a tile job in the bathroom. The bathroom was all tile, and it was the most male bathroom you've ever seen in your life. It was all subway tile, the little,
like black and white.
Oh no, pure white.
Pure white. Okay.
Yeah. No, it was subway tile, and this is the guy who designed Critters, right? Philip Foreman, and so we were finished on a Saturday. And on that Saturday, we loaded everything into the truck. And at the time, I had like this older 68 truck that had been rebuilt and, had a big motor and stuff. But I hadn't done the steering yet, right? And so it steered like a steering wheel from a 1968 truck. And so later on, I put power steering in it. But steering was very loose. the motor was very large. We had a huge load of junk in the back of it. It was 11 o'clock and we were absolutely so tired. And I had an assistant at the time, who's a very, very dear friend of mine. I'm not going to let out his name right this moment unless he says I can. And if he does, I'm going to put his name in right here. Okay. So anyway, he had a lot of mental health issues from a child, and I'll give you a description of it. He says, well, it was very hard to pay attention in school because there was this creature that would be running all over the room. And he was schizophrenic.
Was it Freddy Snake?
No. He described it as a cross between an eagle and a squirrel.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about it. Anyway, and he said, and his description, well, we'll get into that later. Let's just say that I knew that we had been having, his father had come to me one time and said, look, you know what? I'm a lawyer. His father was my neighbor. He says, I'm a lawyer. He needs something to do, and he loves watching you work, in your garage and stuff, because I was always building an effect here and an effect there. And he says, and maybe he could come and hang out with you for a while. So eventually I gave him a job, and he worked with me for probably about 4 years. Now, he worked in film business and in other business, right? Whatever we could do to survive. So we're coming back from the tile job. It's 11 o'clock at night. We had worked all day long, and we were just absolutely exhausted. And I started down the street with this overloaded truck with all the leftover tile pieces. And if you know anything about Venice has two things that are weird. It has speed bumps everywhere, and on their smaller streets, they're always packed at night, just like boom, bumper to bumper. And so I head down the street. All the tile that's in the back is all the way to the back of the truck, and it made the front end loose, really loose,
right,
because it was light. Okay. I come up to the first bump, and the front end comes up. It makes me push on the throttle a little bit too much, and the big 350 motor just goes roar, and when it roars, it picked the front end up off the ground, and it goes immediately to the right, and it slams down, and I'm like, oh, and I try and pull my foot off the throttle, but that makes it slam down. And it slammed down. My foot went back on the throttle, and it goes back up again. And I've corrected the steering wheel and gone out of the way.
Oh, wow.
And so we wound up hopping from one side of the street to the other, almost hitting cars all the way, ping-ponging down the street like like we're playing pinball. And through the whole thing, he is sitting beside me, just going, just looking around, just exactly like nothing is happening. And I am fighting for control of the truck. And finally I get it into control, and I stop at the end of the street, and I go, and I'm looking over at him, and I'm like kind of puzzled, and I go, so that was a hell of a thing, wasn't it? And he goes, that really happened?
So he was trying to play it cool.
Yeah, he had no idea. And I went, you and I are going to sit down. We're going to pull over to the side of the road right here, and we're going to sit and we're going to talk about you. and we sat down there, and I said, how is it that you can go through that, and not be able to separate it from reality? And he tells me what it is like to be schizophrenic. And he says, here's the thing. I said, well, so if you take your lithium, and I know you take your lithium, if you take your lithium, then it makes all that go away. And he goes, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
He says, no, it doesn't go away.
Calms you down, right?
He said, no. He says, it just makes it so that I can tell the difference between what's real and what's not. And that had never occurred to me. And from that point on, our relationship became one of me understanding now what this was. And so what I would do is I would build a day for him. I would say, look, we're going to go out today and we're going to do, because what I realized is that the fact that we did different stuff all the time, like we did special effects one day, and then we fixed somebody's toilet the next day, and then we, worked on a Phillips tile the next day, and then we would do a flying rig on a studio in town the next day, was not good for a schizophrenic. He needed.
You have to have some kind of regularity.
Right, regularity. Yeah. So what I did was I started to put things together in as a common thread. For instance, I would say, today we're doing plumbing, and we use pipes, and we use tape measures. And, we measure the pipes and we lay them in. And then the next day we would be pre-rigging a stage for special effects, and we would be doing a rain gag, and I would say, okay, this is a rain gag. Now here's the thing, is it might seem totally different, and it is a different place, but here's what we're going to do that's in common with what we did yesterday. And I would explain that every morning. We would have like this, and then I would explain it at noon when we're like eating lunch and kidding around. Then just before we'd start in again, I would say, there are certain things that are common. We're going to clean up at the end of the day. We're, all of these things are common in each one of these days. And he actually, honestly, got a lot better in the next 3 to 4 years. And, he still had and he still would have spells that would be, we would have to work through them and stuff like that. But, it's his relationship to me, as far as my wife is concerned, who hates anything to do with the show business. She considers my relationship with him to be the only worthwhile thing I've ever done in my life. Wow. Bar none. Absolutely by this much.
Not even have children?
What?
What about children? Aren't those worthwhile?
Yeah, but she dealt with the children. She knows. Right. She knows.
She was part of that.
She knows that she everything
but
today.
In show business.
Everything today that doesn't drive her nuts about children and grandchildren, I had nothing to do with. So, so that's my story. I'm sorry that it wasn't directly as.
No, that was really interesting. Especially because it wasn't totally related to. It was related to.
It was related to the movie, yeah, but it wasn't related to making a movie.
And this gentleman worked on the movies with you, so I mean,
and he did.
It works.
He did. Yeah. So there you go.
So don't put your tile in the back of the truck. Make sure you even out the weight.
You even it out a little bit, and and fix your steering, people.
Yes.
People, fix your steering, please.
This is like a public service announcement.
This is a public service announcement from Mick Strawn. And
thank you for joining us on the Dream Warrior Review. This is Kurt Thomas along with Mick Strawn. We appreciate you listening to us, and please let your friends and family know about how awesome we are. You can hit us up at dreamwarriorreview@gmail.com, or you can find us on Twitter and Facebook at DWR Review. We'll see you next time on the Dream Warrior Review.